right. Hi, everyone. How are we doing today? Thanks for tuning into our live webinar sessions. My name is Ashley. I work at the recruitment department. I work in the recruitment department at Loyalist College, rather. And today's info session is all about the Community and Justice Services program at Loyalist. So it's going to be a really great one. We're so fortunate here today to have two faculty members from that program. We've got Phil here, and we also have Neil as well. So thanks for joining us, Phil and Neil. Phil, did you want to start by telling us a little bit about yourself and your professional background?
Sure, Ashley, be happy to. This is my 15th year at Loyalist. I'm quite fortunate to have been there for that length of time. Prior to that, I was a high school guidance counselor back in Nova Scotia, where I come from. Probably seen there of Becky Scope in the background. And I have 12 years experience as a correctional officer with the Nova Scotia Department of Justice. I was also a phys ed teacher, public school system, and that pretty much takes me back to the early 1980s. So.
That's awesome. Thanks, Phil. Neil, did you want to take a crack at it? Can you tell us a little bit about yourself and your professional background as well?
Yeah, so my background related to this field had to work with at-risk youth for about 10 to 12 years, working in that, both frontline, working directly with them, young offender, open system, and also as a court liaison and working in a private school for young offenders. So that's where most of my background related to this area, as well as human services and social services.
That's awesome. It's such a cool thing to have such great faculty members teaching these programs with that great program specific knowledge, you know, just from their background. I think that's really great. Thank you both.
Ashley, sorry, if I could just jump in for a moment.
Yeah,
in our faculty, our colleagues in the CGS program, we also have a probation parole officer. We have somebody from mental health and addictions with 20 years of experience. We've got somebody in the justice program that teaches as a ex-police officer. We run the gamut as far as Customs Border Services officer, because I'm sure you'll get to that, but just there's more than Neil and I in the program. So
of course, yeah, for sure. But again, it's such a cool thing to have that industry knowledge and then go into teaching this program. I think that's really key. A few housekeeping items before we kind of jump into the thick of things here. We have this great chat feature on Zoom, and you'll find that at the very bottom of your bar on your screen. So if you hit the chat function, you're able to chat directly with Loyalist College. Please feel free to ask any questions that you may have, whether they be general questions about the college itself, or any program-specific questions you may have as well. We'd be really happy to answer those program-specific questions at the very end of the session. So chat away, ask those good questions, and we'll get to those at the very end. Are we ready to jump right into it?
Yeah, I'm good.
Sounds good. All right. So now, Neil, because I started with Phil, I'll start with Neil here. Can you start by telling us a little bit about the Community and Justice Services program?
Well, the Community and Justice Services program is kind of a very unique program at the college where it bridges many areas of interest for students. So we look at working with youth, we look at working with adults, we examine and help people get ready for working in places like correctional facilities, in youth homes and treatment centers, addictions, mental health, persons with developmental challenges or autism spectrum. Various. It's very, very broad. And what we really look at is how do we help you learn to work with people wherever the challenges in their lives are. And we're kind of a program also that doesn't hide anything from you. We really make things up front and center. We try to give you the real experience of what it's going to be like working in the field. We're kind of known as a program that our students are really strong. I guess the words that have been used are grit and tenacity. So our students get in there and they're not afraid of anything once they graduate. They're ready to take on any situation. So yeah, our program, it's a 2-year diploma, a lot of hands-on experiential learning, a lot of interaction, a lot of going out into the field, bringing in community partners. So yes, it's a fun program.
Absolutely. It sure sounds like it. Phil, did you want to add anything to that at all?
Well, Neil pretty much covered everything there under the sun.
Absolutely.
I like during open houses and what have you, when people come by for campus tours, etc. It's the big umbrella, right? It's community and justice, and where on that large spectrum do you find yourself? Do you want to early intervention programs? I was doing a mental checklist this morning. I was out for my daily constitutional, and we have graduates working in daycare centers, preschool programs, elementary school, post or secondary school programs. We as EAs, as EA assistants. We have students, graduates working as psychological consultants, Coast Guard supervisors in correctional institutions, in public. It's community and justice. It's where do you find yourself? Where do you want to go? That's what we do. Neil said we help the student find out what they want to do, and we find out where that compass points, and we make to work that happen.
For sure. Yeah, I love that. That's awesome. I like the whole umbrella. I think that's such a good representation of kind of the different fields that grads can get into, which I think is really cool.
Mm-hmm.
So can you tell us a little bit about how students are learning within this program?
Me?
Sorry, I was going to say, I'll direct that one to Phil.
Okay.
Fair enough. That's, well, as a former phys ed teacher, I was taught way back when that the best way for people to learn a specific set of skills is to demonstrate, educate, and evaluate. So we tell them what we want them to be able to do at the end of the road, either course by course, year by year, or program by program. Then teach it specific skills within that larger skill set, and then test them ongoing. And quite often I remind them that never in the history of my experience working with people at risk has somebody said, "Oh, Phil, you need to be ready in about 45 minutes because something's going to happen and you have to respond to it." Things just happen. So what we do is we set up learning environments where the students like to think we surprise them, but it's more like we prepare them. Something happens and then they have to respond to it. And it's guided to success. So we want them to feel confident in their skill set when they eventually leave the program. So the idea is we test them on a regular basis, but not formalized, sitting down, writing pen and paper kind of tests. You can say, this is what I do. I'd rather see you do what you should be doing. And then we gently remind them that, it's safe to make mistakes here, and it's very hands-on. We want that visceral experience. We want them to feel what it's like to be afraid of somebody's in your face and screaming at you. Not that we would ever get in their face and scream at them, but during some role plays, it can get real. We're bringing people from the outside agencies, as Neil said, and when you have a seasoned, for instance, correctional officer role playing, and that's what he does for a living, is train correctional officers, it makes it real for the student, and they realize, we've seen students with little rivulets of perspiration run down their neck in a role play situation.
For sure. Yeah. Thank you, Phil. Neil, anything to add to that at all? I know Phil did a great job covering everything, but did you want to add anything at all?
I think the only thing I was going to add is that as you go through each course is kind of uniquely designed to really maximize the learning experience for the student. So as the students progress from semester one, it's more introduction, getting used to, getting comfortable with your environment. Then semester two, we kind of ramp it up, and just each semester it builds upon each other. So by the time you graduate, you're pretty much doing real industry related activities. So there's not near as much of the theory in the last semester as much as let's do it, let's show it, let me see what you got. So the program's really designed to somebody off at the pace they can manage and move them to the point where they're ready to go into the industry.
That's awesome. Thank you so much. So I know we kind of touched on a couple, experiential learning opportunities, but can you tell us a little bit more about some of those opportunities that students are going to be having to get that hands-on experiential learning in this program? And
Do you want me to start with that? Okay. So some of the experiential learning. So there's so much. We try to really make our program hands-on. So there's everything from, we do in first year, there's a lot of activities that go on in the classroom, a lot of role plays, a lot of demonstration of your skills and talents, and putting you in real life situations and seeing how you manage it and then build upon those skills. Second year, we really get into the let's go out in the industry and let's bring more of the industry in. So we're doing field trips to correctional facilities. We're having the drug dogs come in and they work with our program frequently to help train their dogs and help to keep them up to standard, because they have to be in constant training to be effective in the workforce. So yeah, we have, may sound strange, but we have the officers coming in planting drugs on our students or weapons on our students, and then the dogs come in to see if they can find it. And they're not attack dogs, they're passive indicators, so they're not going to hurt the students, or even they just wag their tail and smile when you have the drug. So it's a strange environment, but it's real, because this is what happens in many facilities, is that they have to try to keep illegal substances out just for the protection of the clients. So we also do end of semester in both third semester and fourth semester, almost a full week scenario where the students act as a role that they would be taking on in the field, or they would also potentially be taking on the role of a client. So we kind of step back and our students kind of show us what they have in the last year of the program, where that experiential learning really gets enhanced. They take on the role of addictions, mental health, a correctional, a youth worker, whatever it is that we have them do at that time. And we step back and say, show us how we've been covering this for so many weeks. Now let me see what you have. And that gets finalized by placement. So they get 2 placements. They look at a placement in their area of interest, and we do our best to set them up with that placement. And they get 4 weeks in the fall semester and 4 weeks in the winter semester of their second year to try 2 different placements to kind of check out different areas that they're interested in. Does that answer?
That's really, I think that's perfect. Yeah, thank you. The placement component is always such a cool, thing. It really cements what you've learned in class, and then you get to go and apply it to real life situations, as you guys mentioned. And how cool to be able to work alongside drug dogs. I'm a big dog person, and I think that would be really a neat experience for students to enjoy. All right, Phil, this one's for you. What makes your program so unique?
Really good question. Before I get on to that, when the dogs come in or when we go to the institutions and they see the dogs in action, it's quite a common experience for a student to say, oh my God, I can't wait to do that. And the reality is we are realists in the program. Is in order to work with the drug dogs, you have to be 5 years in the Correctional Service of Canada, and then undergo specialized training. And one of the dog handlers told me that there were 320 applicants from across the country for one position. So you have to be really, really good at what you do to get that job. It's not a question of, oh, I like dogs, I want to work with dogs. Yeah,
For
yeah,
sure.
we're realists. What makes us unique? Well, we're realists. Did I say that? Day one, we start the process, and who wants to work in, for instance, adult corrections? And all the hands go up, and there's 45 students, and 20 of them will say yes. By the end of 3 weeks, 10 of them are committed to that. And by the end of 10 weeks, it's probably down to 6 or 7, because we show the students we bring in experts. We bring people in the field and say, this is what I do on a daily basis, and this is how I deal with the stressors in the workplace. I mean, with what's going on right now with the COVID-19, I got a message from a recent graduate who's out in BC, and their entire institution is locked down. They can't leave. The staff can't leave. Nobody can come in. It's rampant in the institution. It's a breeding ground, because you've got 2 people to a very small cell. We don't pull punches. We tell the students, this is what you're in for. This is your career path. It's a wonderful career, no mistake about it. It's way safer than many other occupations. But if this is what you want to do, you make sure your heart's set on it, because the government doesn't want to spend hours and hours and lots of money training you to have you walk away after 2 or 3 years. They expect it's going to be a commitment for 25 to 30 years. With that in mind, lots of other opportunities in on that spectrum. And quite often people go into a job thinking that they're going to do this for a couple or 3 years, and it becomes a career because they find their avocation rather than just their vocation, something that speaks to them, and they find great reward, less in the financial aspect of it, but more in the, I really made a difference in somebody's life. And that's the piece that we remind our students, that things that you say to a client or things that you don't say if the opportunity exists, and things that you do for or things that you don't do can make a difference, or if you don't do them, it'll also have an impact. So we have this unique ability to change people's lives just by being there at the right time, saying the right thing, being there in a supportive position. And that's, we put it out there for them. There's a reason why we were the #1 community and justice services program in the province of Ontario last year. Yeah, that was one of those, oh, that's nice. And that's from the student satisfaction surveys. They thought we'd done a really good job. So
that's awesome to hear.
We tell them it was all about them. So
for sure. Thank you, Phil. Neil, did you want to add anything to that?
Yeah, sure. The one thing also that's kind of really interesting that happens is when we start looking at the students and the opportunities, yeah, as Phil said, they all start off thinking it's only one option. And what happens is as we bring in guest speakers and they get exposed to different opportunities, they start to find their passion. And it's really neat to see the students say, well, I thought I wanted this, but actually I'm really being drawn to something else and I want to explore that. And I want to find out what it would be like to work in that industry for a long period of time. And I don't know how many times this happens where a student says, I am not working here. I will never work here. And I say, well, you know what? Why don't you just try it out? Why don't you do a visit, or why don't you go on placement there just so you can cross it off your list for sure to say it's something you don't want? Because if you haven't explored it, how do you really know? And almost 9 times out of 10, man, I was not expecting that. I really like it now. And I now have to rethink, maybe this is an opportunity. So it opens up opportunities. And the other thing I really enjoy is the students begin to realize that they're good at learning. They may not have a good experience in high school, but have felt confident in doing courses, or they may be afraid of post-secondary. And many of our students come in barely graduating high school, but by the time they graduate, they want to go on to university. They get this kind of love of learning and lifelong learning, and they get excited about learning, which may not have been their experience in high school. So I love seeing that part too, to get the students excited about what they want to do, and then they don't want to, they want to keep going. So as being a learner than I thought I was, I'm actually pretty good at it. So
that's awesome.
Yes.
Thank you so much.
Education, the root word is educare, which means to draw out. So we look for the essence of the student and then try to match it, kind of like the sorting hat on Harry Potter. I want to go here on placement. Well, you might think you do, but let's look at that and revisit in 5 or 6 weeks and see how you know, whether it matches, because we know all the placement hosts and all the environments, and we get great feedback from our employers saying this is the kind of student that we're looking for. Keen, as Neil said, love to learn. They're ambitious. They know their place. They don't go in and go, well, that's not what Neil said to do. That's a real good way to not have a successful placement experience. Tell somebody that they're doing their job wrong. Neil, you mentioned people that didn't have the best high school experience. It prompted me to think of one young lady that came to us after being asked to leave another institution that should remain nameless. And she came in with full of self-doubt, and she was successful in my program and went off to university and said, oh, I'll never make it through university. It's way too hard. She got through university as well, and now she's a probation officer. Another young man came to us and said, I'm just here basically to play basketball because I won't graduate because my teachers told me I have a learning disability. Well, he got through the program, went to university, got a BED, now works Kawartha District School Board, and yeah, it's pretty cool to see. We had a a young man come through the program that was particularly unmotivated, came to class sporadically and paid attention occasionally. He's now working with the CBSA because while he was there, something clicked, and he goes, I'm smarter than I give myself credit for, because he had been told pretty much all his life he was a good athlete, but not a very good student. And yeah, we lit that fire under his behind and held him accountable and challenged him. And it's nice to see success stories like that.
It certainly is. Yeah. Thank you so much for sharing those. I think they're really, really key for sure. So we got another question here. What would you say, Phil, students enjoy most about your program?
Mm-hmm. Variety.
Variety.
It's never. So a couple of years ago, we had one of the student leaders came to us and said, your program's too heavily emphasizing correctional services. I came here for community-based programming. And we took that under advisement and looked at the curriculum, and we have a steering committee that informs us as to what the industry is all about, industries, and we try to modify things. We're nimble, and if things are changing, then we try to make changes as necessary. The very next year, a group of students came to us and said, this is way too community-based. We were looking for more correctional material. Nothing had changed except the students in the seats. The program was identical, but how you view it determines your perspective on things. The variety that we bring to the program, we don't have very many textbooks, because even with the digital age, when a textbook comes out, the material in it is already, in most instances, outdated. So we try to keep things as relevant as possible. We rely heavily upon experts who are currently in the field, and we're in contact with them. Our graduates are our best source of information. I mean, I'll get text messages or emails from people who are out there working saying, hey, you guys should be aware of this. This is what's coming down the pipes. When you get senior administrators in various organizations saying, hey, just so you know, this is what we heard is going to be happening in 3 months, then we can work towards that. We're not cast in stone that we have to teach this, and this. We're pretty able to change as the needs fits, and I think the students appreciate that. They're never sure what they're going to get. It's like surprise, which is a good thing. It keeps them intrigued and keeps them interested in what's going on.
For sure. Neil, anything to add to that at all?
I was just thinking about that when Phil was talking about how keeping the information relevant, the variety. Yeah, I've seen Phil in the middle of class, because we co-teach some classes every once in a while when we feel that, it's going to be best for the students to get a variety even within a class setting. Someone will ask a question, he'll say, just a minute. He'll pull out his phone, text the person who's working at a correctional facility or at a mental health addictions or wherever, and say, hey, does this happen at your facility? Is this the normal thing right now? So yeah, that idea of being relevant, current, up to date, in touch with the industry is something I try really hard to make sure that that's the experience of the students, that they're getting the most relevant and the most recent. And you're always going to get some different viewpoints of what's the best way to do something even in the industry, but we're doing our best to provide them with the insight and the experience of what the industry both wants and what it's like. So this is what kind of the industry is looking for, people that have these skills and they want this type of thing, but you also have to be prepared that once you get there, your experience is going to be this as well. So we try to make it a very holistic approach in the program, that we're telling them the real life experiences of what's happening, plus where the direction of the industry is going, so that they're prepared for both.
That's awesome. Thank you so much. So I guess I'll direct this one to Neil here. I know we discussed it a little bit already, but can you give us some details as to where students are finding work upon graduation?
Yeah, that's a very hard one to answer, because it's everywhere. It literally is. I'm surprised every semester at the new locations that students are going and are being hired, and they're being sought out as well by employers for specific areas. So we have employers in the local area who look after our students, or look for our students in working with autism spectrum. Again, schools, they like to have our students in the schools as employees for various positions. Residential youth and treatment facilities for youth are very popular. It's a tough area, but it's a really good, rewarding experience in working in those areas. So it's something where the employers in our area really enjoy that. Employers all across Ontario, I shouldn't say just in our area. Mental health and addictions, addiction treatment home. Often we'll hire our students employment services. I'm not sure. Correctional facilities, probation, parole is actually kind of a unique one. Now, that route does require a degree. So many of our students will start here and then they'll go on and they only have to do another 2 years at university before they meet the requirements. So that transferability from college to university has been really developed in our program so that it's fairly straightforward to go on and get a degree. And then they can become a probation parole officer. And actually probation parole recruits at our school. They come to the employment sessions because we've had so many students graduate to become to go on to university and then take the role as probation parole officer. Correctional, both federal, provincial, Indigenous liaison officer, working at victim services is another one, and intimate partner violence homes, both locally and farther away. I don't know where to end.
So such great variety in where our grads are finding jobs. I love that.
Community.
It's and
the umbrella, yes.
Yeah. Where do you want to go? I think I said it's like a choose your own adventure, right? It's you decide the pathway, and if at some point you get to a spot where you might want to change a bit, that's not a problem, because what we really emphasize is how do you work with people. And if you can work with people in one area, you most likely can work with someone in another area. You just have to focus that. I mean, we have a strong emphasis on psychology in our program and sociology and criminology, so that people really understand the connections between all the different areas. So when a student wants to transfer types of work, it's not really that hard because they know how to work with people and they understand people.
And more importantly, they understand themselves.
Yes.
We do a lot of introspective work, self-reflective work. The idea that we're not prepared to send somebody in the workplace that is not aware of their own triggers. So as I said earlier, we test the students. We push them pretty hard. I mean, I teach a counseling course, and I can't in good faith allow a student to try to help somebody else. For instance, Neil mentioned intimate partner violence. Well, I want to go here and work with women that have experienced intimate partner violence. And I point blank ask them, are you a survivor? Well, yeah, how did you know? Well, because you're wearing it on your sleeve. So what happens if you're in discussion with somebody and she shares something and it triggers something in you, and now you're having a meltdown? You're supposed to be there to help them. So it's seen as a badge of honor when real tears are shed in these little micro sessions. And I tell them magic happens in these sessions, and someone's going to start to cry. And they all, oh, the big tough guys, oh, I'm not going to cry. And sure enough, week 2 or week 3, somebody is like real emotion, and the students go, oh my God, like this really happens. Yeah, you're talking about real emotion with real people. So we want them to have their own affairs in order before they go out and help other people, because that's what the program is all about, is helping other people. And you can't do that unless you help yourself first.
For sure. Yeah, very well put. So we have our final question here before we begin. I know, right? Before we begin into our Q&A, if we've got some good questions here. So I guess I'll direct this one to you, Neil. What do you love most about Loyalist?
Well, I came to Loyalist as a student, as a mature student, after going to other post-secondary institutions. And I'm from the Belleville area, so it was kind of like in your own backyard. And I almost a little bit dismissed Loyalist when I first graduated high school, because I thought, nah, I'm not going to Loyalist, I'm going elsewhere. But when I actually came to Loyalist, I couldn't believe the environment, the atmosphere. It felt like home. So it was just this real welcoming, engaged environment where everybody seemed to have somewhat of a smile on their face most of the time, or if they didn't, people would be like, what's wrong? What's up? Like, what's how can we help you? So working at Loyalist, it kind of just feels like I fit, just despite what might be difference between each person and how we're a very diverse faculty and very diverse students, we all kind of fit. We have a place to belong and feel good about. We get to know our students. I honestly almost have a sense of family by, the end of second year. It's hard for our students to leave. They have a hard time leaving and saying, I don't want to go yet. I want more of this. I'm like, you've graduated. So it's time to fly. But but we stay in touch for a long, long time. I still in touch with students regularly from when I first started in 2008 at Loyalist as an instructor or faculty. So you come, but you never leave. I'm not going to say it's Hotel California, but it's once you get and become part of things, it seems to it seems to bring you in and welcome you and allow you to be as involved as you would like to, or not as involved as you'd like to, and that everything's okay. Does that answer?
Awesome. Okay. I think that's perfect. Yes, thanks, Neil. And Phil, how about you? What do you love most about Loyalist?
Well, working with Neil, of course.
Of course.
I'd have to echo the comments. It's a real sense of family. A few years ago, we had a family come down from Brampton and toured the campus, and I was not part of the campus tour. And then the athletic director goes, "Phil, do you have a second?" I went, "Yeah, sure." Well, this guy's parents are interested in him coming here to play rugby, I guess it was, and would you mind walking him over to residence? I went, "Sure, not a problem." And we walked over and chatted, and I remember the mom saying, "There's so many beautiful trees here. It reminds me of," she's from Barbados. She goes, "It's just green. I don't see any of this green where we live now. This is a really nice place." And I went, "Yeah." And I told her, I said, "I'm a parent as well. If your son comes here, I can guarantee that he'll be welcomed and he'll be respected and he'll learn and he'll have a great experience, because that's what we do. It's an extended family. As Neil said, we stay in contact with our students. We have a Facebook page of past graduates, and there's 360 past graduates that we get updates on. Who got married, who had kids, who got new jobs, this, that. We still stay connected, birthday wishes, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So it's just like one big happy family. We put the fun in dysfunctional.
Love that, for sure. Thank you so much, both of you, for joining us today and giving us this great information about the Community and Justice Services program at Loyalist. Now comes the fun part. Now, if you have tuned in and you've missed kind of the housekeeping, we have this great chat feature, and you can ask any questions at all, whether they be general Loyalist College questions or program-specific questions for Phil and Neil to answer. Shoot them into the comment section, and we'd be happy to help answer any of those questions that you may have. So we have a few here for you. Are we ready for some questions coming your way? Absolutely. Awesome. All right. So we have here, what are some of the unique placements students have had? What are some of the unique placements that students have had? Would you say?
Well, we have this saying that careful what you ask for, because you might get it. We had a student ask, is it possible to do a placement with Corrections Canada, but not as a correctional officer? Well, what do you mean? He goes, well, I'm more interested in like the legal end of things. He wound up literally working with a correctional manager and worked as a liaison with Kingston Police, went to national headquarters, spent time there, did purchasing and procurement. He was essentially being trained as a correctional manager for 4 weeks, and it just blew him away, because I had no idea. I thought they were just quote unquote guards. He's now a lawyer working in a firm in Ottawa. He had great ambition, great aspirations. That's one that stands out. Neil, can you think of anything that's unique or?
Well, it's really hard for us to say unique, because we have such a broad range of experiences with students. And as I said, every semester I'm surprised at the new ones that come out. I'm trying to think what would be unique to us. So unique to, uh, unique could be, I'm trying to think of some other specific ones. There was another one where a student went as a Indigenous liaison in the community. And so they were going all across Ontario visiting the various sites where they would need support and transition from whatever area back into the community. And it was mind blowing. Sometimes we go on placement visits and we want to stay to just to get the experience our students do, because that's.
There you go. I'll take over.
Oh, there. Yeah, that's okay. I lost connection there.
Oh, shoot.
Okay. So yeah, it's a great time to go out into the community and see what our students are doing, because they're so awesome.
I'll jump in on that. So I'm walking through a Millhaven Penitentiary because a correctional manager there wanted to come talk to our class about employment opportunities within CSE, because he's working for the recruitment end of things. And I'm walking through the hallways and I hear my name. And I'm thinking, is this an offender? And behind a very dark bulletproof partition, a hand comes out through this little portal. And I walk over and I'm looking inside. It's a graduate from 2008. And I go, well, that's pretty cool. I recognized her voice. Couldn't see who it was. And walking down the corridor a little bit further and coming towards me, it's another graduate from 2012 who spent time as working with the Métis Association of Ontario, who's now the Indigenous Liaison Officer in Loyalist Penitentiary. I'm going, this is just so cool. And the staff member looks at me and goes, how many graduates do you have here? I got no idea. They're everywhere. We take a group of students on a tour somewhere, and they're calling out their names and running over. And the fire department's here today to pick up my dad, who's 87 years old, and I can't lift him by myself. And it was a graduate from our program from 2006. I'm going, hey, how's it going? Oh yeah, unique placement opportunities. Yeah, you never know where you're going to end up. Like I said before, you ask and we'll try to make it happen.
The other thing we do, we've been doing quite a bit. It's called a WIL project, a work integrated learning, and our program's been kind of front and center of moving that forward. Where we, instead of just coming and taking the course in the classroom, where we actually get you to go out and work with an agency and do the work you would normally be doing in the classroom in kind of real time with an agency. So if you're developing a program to try to work on improving employment opportunities with someone with a specific challenge in their life, rather than just doing a mock one in the classroom, you would go out with the community agency and create a real program that would then be used. So for students who have that ambition, so it's not just a placement, it's actually you're going out and working with an agency and helping them design or develop. Sometimes it's applied research, so researching what's missing in the in that agency's services so that they can make better services or go after. So there's so many opportunities that can happen in the classroom and outside of the classroom. So placement's an awesome piece, but there's also all of these other things that kind of prepare you even for placement or in addition to placement.
That's awesome. Yeah, thank you so much. Such great opportunities out there, unique and really really interesting opportunities out there for sure. We've got another question here. Is it common for students to go into the program waiting to go into the CBSA? Whoever can answer that best.
Best, I can answer it first. We get a lot of transferability, cross-pollination, I guess. Students come into a program and they pick CJS, and then while they're there, they go, I'm not sure I can do this. I don't want to work in an institution. I want something different, something. So after the common first year, they're able to transfer into a streamline for the second year. So we'll get students enrolled in the CJS program semester 1 and 2, and then in semester 3 and 4, they actually transfer to the CBSA program. We tell them a diploma is a diploma is a diploma. The minimum requirements for working with the federal government is 19 years of age and a high school education. With that being said, the more education you have, the higher up the testing score you will move, because they have value assigned to education, and more so for education in a related discipline. So if you have a CJS diploma and apply to corrections, that puts you up higher on the scale. Same thing with CBSA. If you have a Customs Border Services program from Loyalist or CGS, I mean, we have CGS grads working at the border. And vis-a-vis, we have Customs Border Services graduates working in corrections. And it really matters not, it's who you are and how you present, but the information you gain in the specific programs, transferable skills can relate to any other justice-related field. Like I said, some of our graduates are lawyers now. They didn't learn to become lawyers at Loyalist, but they went on afterwards. That helps?
Thank you very much. Yeah, that's great. Thanks. That's up our session for today. Do you guys have anything that you'd like to say to our great people tuning in out there before we head out?
Well, Phil touched on something, and I just wanted to add to it. I don't think we touched on our common first year in Community and Justice Services. So in the first year, we have 4 different programs that work together as one, basically. So there's Police Foundations, Customs and Border Services, Protection, Security, Investigation, and our own Community and Justice Services. So by the end of first year, if you're feeling like, you know, you might want to go to a slightly different focus or a slightly different learning style, because each program has their own kind of learning style. So some students say, you know what, I do want to go into Customs and Borders, but I really like the learning style that Community and Justice has, or I really like the focus of Police Foundations, even though I do want to become a correctional officer. Nothing stops you from making those choices, and it doesn't really bar you from moving forward into those careers. Those careers are still wide open for you. So don't be afraid. I think that common first year makes it pretty inviting to try the different opportunities and explore what you really feel you're best suited for, or where you're most interested in.
One of our first year.
Thank you for adding that in.
Sorry. One of our first year courses, second semester, is career resource and development, where the students actually are exposed to a variety of recent graduates who are working in the field, and it's really cool to see their eyes get really, really big, and then this look of confusion comes over their face, because each week as it happens, they go, oh my God, I'd love to do that. And then another group comes in and they go, oh my God, that's amazing. I'd love to do that. No matter who's up there on the stage talking about the career, the careers are richly rewarding, exciting, and all that wonderful stuff. As I mentioned before, there's lateral transfer. I know lots of people that spend 5-8 years in a particular industry and then go, you know, I think I'd like to do this for a while instead. You know, oh, I can't wait to be a probation officer. And after 7 or 8 years of being a probation officer, it's like, yeah, I'm thinking of OPP now. Cool. So they contact us and go, do you remember that assignment you had us do 7-8 years ago? Can you send that to me? So, because it'll help refresh my memory about how to apply for it. Yeah. We're there for them as a resource.
For sure.
So the question we often get is how long will I have to wait before I leave Loyalist to get my career started? And I'm thinking of a young lady who sent me a message not that long ago, who graduated at age 19 and is working as a correctional officer in BC. And she came in, I'm going to be a cop. And partway through semester 1, she, as Neil said, I'm really finding this area more interesting. So she came into CJS. And I can remember on more than one occasion, she'd leave the class in tears because, as I said before, we make them work, we push buttons, and we confront them with the things they're afraid of and help them work through it. And before she wrote the correctional officer testing, she goes, I'm not going to be successful. And she was. I'm not going to pass the training. She did. They're going to send me back. They didn't. So she's into year 2 now of a successful career as a correctional officer. It's pretty cool to see when they achieve things they're not inclined to believe they can do, and that's the best part of it is to see it's like, as Neil said, their family.
For sure. That's amazing. Now, thank you so much, both of you, for tuning in with us today and giving us all this great information and answering all those hard questions. And we really appreciate your time. To everyone out there tuning in, thanks for being here. And join us again on another live webinar session. We've got a few other great ones coming up. And thank you all for being here. Stay well during these times. See you all later. Bye.
Thanks, Ashley.
Thanks.
Thanks,
Bye-bye.
guys. See ya.
Bye.